Most teenagers are being told the same lie right now, that life is supposed to be easy, comfortable, and painless. But here's the truth no one is brave enough to say out loud. The more you run from responsibility and discomfort, the weaker you become. I learned this lesson the hard way. Through pain, through isolation, through moments where quitting felt logical. And what saved me wasn't motivation. It wasn't luck. It was learning how to take responsibility for my own suffering and turn it into strength. If you're a teenager growing up in a world that rewards distraction, excuses, and victimhood, this lesson might be the difference between a life of regret and a life of purpose. Listen closely, because this is the lesson I wish someone had told me earlier. Responsibility is not a burden placed on you by the world. It is a weight you choose to pick up, and that choice determines whether you grow stronger or stay fragile. Most people, especially teenagers today, are taught to avoid responsibility because it feels heavy, uncomfortable, and unfair. They are told that if something hurts, someone else must be at fault. If life feels overwhelming, it must be the system, society, parents, teachers, or circumstances. But the hard truth is this: avoiding responsibility does not protect you from pain. It guarantees weakness. Strength is built when you decide to take ownership of your life, even when you didn't cause the problem. Responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong. It means recognizing that regardless of how you got here, your life is still yours to fix. That shift in mindset changes everything. The moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do about this?" you begin to develop real strength. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting to be saved. You stop hoping someone else will understand you perfectly, rescue you, or make life easier for you. You accept that no one is coming to do the hard work for you. And while that realization can feel terrifying at first, it is also deeply empowering, because if no one is coming to save you, that means you are capable of saving yourself. Responsibility forces you to face reality instead of hiding from it. It demands honesty about your habits, your weaknesses, your choices, and your failures. That honesty hurts, but it sharpens you. Weakness thrives in denial. Strength grows in truth. When you admit where you are failing, you gain the power to change. When you pretend nothing is your fault, you lose that power completely. Taking responsibility also builds resilience. Life will hurt you. You will be disappointed, rejected, misunderstood, and sometimes genuinely treated unfairly. Responsibility does not remove suffering, but it gives suffering meaning. When you see yourself as responsible, pain becomes information instead of an excuse. You ask, "What is this teaching me?" instead of, "How do I escape this?" And every time you respond that way, you become harder to break. Many teenagers believe strength comes from confidence, popularity, or being seen as powerful by others. But real strength is quiet. It is built in the moments when no one is watching. When you choose to wake up on time, keep a promise, tell the truth, do the hard thing, and hold yourself to a standard even when it would be easier not to. Responsibility trains you to act based on values, not feelings, and that ability is rare and incredibly powerful. Responsibility also creates self-respect. You cannot genuinely respect yourself if you constantly blame others for your life. Deep down, you know when you are avoiding responsibility, and that avoidance slowly erodes your sense of worth. On the other hand, when you take responsibility, even imperfectly, you begin to trust yourself. You learn that you can endure discomfort, face problems, and survive failure. That trust becomes confidence rooted in reality, not fragile self-esteem that collapses the moment something goes wrong. There is another uncomfortable truth. The world does not reward weakness, even if it pretends to. While society may encourage excuses and victimhood, real opportunities are given to people who can carry responsibility, people who can be relied on, people who show up when things are hard. Strength attracts respect, trust, and opportunity, and strength is built through responsibility. Responsibility also gives your life direction. Without it, you drift. You react to whatever happens around you, controlled by emotions, trends, and other people's opinions. With responsibility, you move intentionally. You decide what matters to you and accept the cost of pursuing it. That cost might be discipline, sacrifice, loneliness, or effort, but paying it gives your life meaning. And meaning is what makes suffering bearable. Avoiding responsibility feels good in the short term. It gives you relief, excuses, and comfort. But that comfort is deceptive. Over time, it turns into anxiety, resentment, and helplessness. Taking responsibility feels heavy at first, but it strengthens you over time. It makes you capable. It teaches you that you are stronger than you think. Strength is not about never struggling. It is about knowing that when you struggle, you will not abandon yourself. Responsibility is the promise you make to yourself that you will face life honestly and carry your share of the weight. And every time you keep that promise, you become a little stronger. This is why responsibility creates strength. not because it makes life easier, but because it makes you capable, and being capable, being someone who can face reality and act despite fear, is the foundation of a powerful life. Discomfort is not a sign that something has gone wrong. In many cases, it is proof that something is finally going right. Yet teenagers today are surrounded by a culture that treats discomfort as an emergency, something to be avoided, medicated, distracted from, or blamed on someone else. The moment things feel hard, boring, painful, or uncertain, the instinct is to escape. But growth does not happen in comfort. Growth happens at the edge of what you can tolerate. Every meaningful change in your life will demand that you step into discomfort. Learning requires confusion. Discipline requires saying no when you want to say yes. Honesty requires the risk of being misunderstood or disliked. Strength requires effort that feels unpleasant before it feels rewarding. If you remove discomfort from the process, you also remove progress. What you're left with is stagnation disguised as safety. Discomfort forces adaptation. When something feels uncomfortable, your mind and body are being challenged to become better than they currently are. Muscles grow by being stressed. Skills develop by being practiced imperfectly. Character forms when you endure situations you would rather avoid. Without discomfort, there is no reason to change, and without change, there is no growth. Many people confuse discomfort with danger. They believe that if something feels hard, it must be harmful. But discomfort and danger are not the same. Discomfort is temporary and productive. Danger is destructive. The problem is that modern life has become so comfortable that even mild discomfort feels unbearable. As a result, people avoid challenges that would actually make them stronger. Discomfort teaches you self-control. When you stay present in something difficult instead of escaping it, you train your nervous system to tolerate stress. That ability becomes invaluable in every area of life. It allows you to have difficult conversations, pursue long-term goals, and remain steady under pressure. People who cannot tolerate discomfort become emotionally reactive. People who can tolerate it become calm, focused, and resilient. There is also an important relationship between discomfort and truth. Truth is often uncomfortable. It challenges your self-image, your beliefs, and your excuses. Facing your flaws is uncomfortable. Admitting you are wrong is uncomfortable. Accepting responsibility for your mistakes is uncomfortable. But avoiding truth weakens you, while facing it strengthens you. Growth requires the courage to sit with uncomfortable truths without running from them. Discomfort is also where discipline is built. Discipline is not about feeling motivated, it is about acting despite discomfort. Motivation comes and goes, but discomfort is consistent. If you wait to feel good before doing what matters, you will never build anything meaningful. Learning to act while uncomfortable is a skill, and like any skill, it improves with practice. Teenagers are often told to follow their feelings, but feelings are unreliable guides. They change constantly and usually point toward comfort, not growth. If you let your feelings decide your actions, discomfort will always win. Growth requires that you choose what is meaningful over what is immediately pleasant. That choice is uncomfortable, but it is also empowering. Discomfort also builds confidence, not the loud, performative kind, but quiet inner confidence. When you repeatedly survive difficult experiences, you prove to yourself that you are capable. That proof is far more powerful than empty affirmations. You stop needing constant reassurance because you have evidence of your strength. You have faced discomfort before, and you can face it again. Avoiding discomfort may protect you from short-term pain, but it creates long-term fragility. The more you avoid, the smaller your life becomes. You become limited by what you are willing to endure. Over time, even minor challenges feel overwhelming because you have never trained yourself to handle them. Discomfort, when avoided, does not disappear, it grows. There is also meaning hidden inside discomfort. When you willingly endure something difficult for a reason you believe in, suffering becomes purposeful. Studying late for a future you care about, training when you're tired, telling the truth even when it costs you, these experiences shape who you become. Meaning does not come from ease, it comes from effort aligned with values. Discomfort teaches patience. Growth takes time, and impatience often shows up as discomfort. You want results now, but reality moves slower. Learning to stay committed through the uncomfortable middle, the part where effort is high and results are invisible, is what separates those who grow from those who quit. Most people don't fail because they are incapable. They fail because they refuse to endure discomfort long enough. Discomfort also prepares you for suffering, which is unavoidable in life. Loss, failure, and hardship will come whether you want them or not. If you have never practiced enduring discomfort, suffering will overwhelm you. But if you have trained yourself to face difficulty voluntarily, you become better equipped to handle the unavoidable pain of life. Choosing discomfort does not mean seeking misery. It means choosing growth over avoidance. It means understanding that a life without discomfort is not a life of peace. It is a life of weakness. True strength comes from knowing you can face difficulty without breaking. Discomfort is the price of becoming something more than you are today. It is not the enemy, it is the doorway. And every time you choose to walk through it instead of running away, you move closer to becoming a stronger, more capable version of yourself. Motivation is a feeling, and like all feelings, it is unreliable. It rises when things are new and exciting, and it disappears the moment life becomes repetitive, difficult, or inconvenient. Many teenagers are taught to wait for motivation before they act, as if progress depends on feeling inspired. But if your life is built on motivation, it will collapse the first time you don't feel like trying. Discipline, not motivation, is what carries you forward when excitement fades. Discipline is the ability to act according to a standard you set for yourself, regardless of how you feel in the moment. It is quiet, often boring, and rarely celebrated. Unlike motivation, discipline does not rely on emotion, it relies on commitment. And commitment is what creates results. When you rely on discipline, your actions become consistent, and consistency is what changes lives. Motivation is strongest at the beginning. Discipline is what keeps you going in the middle. The beginning of any goal feels powerful. You feel hopeful, energized, and confident, but the middle is where progress slows, obstacles appear, and boredom sets in. This is where most people quit. They mistake the loss of motivation for a sign that they are on the wrong path. In reality, it is simply the point where discipline is required. Discipline builds identity. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who can be trusted. Over time, that belief becomes part of who you are. You don't need to convince yourself to act. You simply act because that is what disciplined people do. Motivation chases identity. Discipline creates it. There is freedom in discipline, even though it appears restrictive from the outside. When you lack discipline, your life is controlled by impulses, moods, and distractions. You eat what you crave, scroll when you're bored, quit when it's hard, and react emotionally when things don't go your way. Discipline breaks that cycle. It gives you control over your actions, and control over your actions gives you control over your future. Teenagers often believe discipline means punishment or harsh self-control. In reality, discipline is self-respect in action. It is choosing long-term well-being over short-term comfort. It is deciding that your future matters more than your current mood. That decision may feel uncomfortable, but it is deeply empowering. Discipline is how you protect your potential from being wasted. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this? Discipline asks, does this need to be done? That difference changes everything. Feelings are temporary. Responsibility remains. Life does not pause because you are tired, unmotivated, or discouraged. Discipline allows you to move forward anyway, one small action at a time. Discipline also reduces anxiety. When your life is guided by motivation, your productivity depends on your emotional state, which is unpredictable. That creates stress and self-doubt. Discipline creates structure. You know what needs to be done, and you do it. That clarity reduces mental noise and builds calm. Order in your actions creates order in your mind. Another powerful truth is that discipline compounds. Small disciplined actions, repeated daily, produce results that motivation alone never could. You don't need massive bursts of inspiration. You need small, consistent effort. Reading a few pages every day, training regularly, showing up on time, keeping promises. These actions seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they reshape your life. Motivation is often external. It depends on speeches, videos, praise, or success. Discipline is internal. It remains even when no one is watching and nothing exciting is happening. This is why disciplined people continue to grow while motivated people often stagnate. External fuel eventually runs out. Internal structure does not. Discipline also teaches emotional maturity. When you act despite discomfort, you learn that emotions do not have to control your behavior. You can feel tired and still work. You can feel afraid and still speak. You can feel discouraged and still move forward. That separation between feeling and action is a sign of strength. There will be days when motivation is absent, days when you feel bored, frustrated, or doubtful. Those days are not failures, they are tests. Each time you choose discipline in those moments, you strengthen it. Over time, discipline becomes easier, not because the work gets easier, but because you become stronger. Motivation can start the journey, but it cannot sustain it. Discipline is what carries you through setbacks, delays, and disappointment. It is what allows you to build something meaningful instead of chasing constant excitement. Discipline does not guarantee success, but lack of discipline guarantees regret. When you look back on your life, you won't regret the days you showed up and tried. You will regret the days you let comfort and excuses make decisions for you. Discipline beats motivation because discipline is dependable. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions or the right mood. It moves forward anyway. And that ability to act when you don't feel like it is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Feelings are powerful, but they are not reliable. They rise and fall, change from moment to moment, and often reflect comfort rather than reality. Yet many teenagers today are taught to treat their feelings as the highest authority, as if whatever feels right must be right. The problem is that feelings don't care about truth. They care about protection, comfort, and immediate relief. Truth, on the other hand, cares about reality, even when reality hurts. Truth does not change just because it makes you uncomfortable. Gravity does not stop working because you feel offended by it. Cause and effect do not disappear because you wish they would. When you ignore truth in favor of feelings, you don't escape consequences, you only delay them, and delayed consequences are usually worse. Feelings are subjective. They are shaped by mood, past experiences, insecurity, fear, and desire. On a good day, you may feel confident and capable. On a bad day, you may feel worthless and hopeless. If you let feelings define what is true about you, your identity will constantly shift. Truth provides stability. It tells you what is real even when your emotions are confused. This does not mean feelings are useless. Feelings are signals. They tell you that something matters, that something is wrong, or that something deserves attention. But signals are not commands. Pain tells you something is injured. It does not tell you how to heal it. Fear tells you something feels risky. It does not tell you whether the risk is worth taking. Truth is what helps you interpret those signals correctly. One of the hardest truths to accept is that you can feel deeply about something and still be wrong. You can feel offended and still misunderstand. You can feel certain and still be mistaken. This is uncomfortable because it challenges the idea that your inner experience is always correct. But maturity begins when you allow truth to correct your feelings instead of allowing feelings to distort the truth. When feelings become more important than truth, honesty disappears. People begin to lie, not only to others, but to themselves. They avoid facts that challenge their beliefs. They reinterpret reality to protect their emotions. Over time, this creates a fragile worldview that collapses under pressure. Strength is built by facing truth honestly, even when it threatens your comfort. Truth requires courage. It often asks you to admit mistakes, accept responsibility, and acknowledge limits. It may force you to let go of excuses that once protected your ego. Feelings will resist this because they prefer comfort over growth. But every time you choose truth over emotional convenience, you grow stronger. Truth is also what allows real solutions. If you misdiagnose a problem because the truth hurts, you cannot fix it. If you tell yourself you failed because the world is unfair rather than because you didn't prepare, you lose the opportunity to improve. Truth may sting, but it points the way forward. Feelings alone often trap you in the same patterns. Teenagers are especially vulnerable to confusing feelings with truth because emotions are intense during that stage of life. Everything feels personal, urgent, and overwhelming, but intense feelings do not equal accurate conclusions. Learning to pause, question your emotional reactions, and ask what is actually true is a critical life skill. It separates impulse from wisdom. Truth also builds trust. When you commit to truth, people can rely on you. Your words mean something, your decisions are grounded in reality. When feelings dominate, consistency disappears. You may say one thing today and contradict it tomorrow based on how you feel. Truth creates integrity, and integrity creates respect, both from others and from yourself. Another difficult truth is that reality does not adapt to protect your feelings. The world will challenge you regardless of how sensitive you are. Skills are still required. Effort is still necessary. Consequences still exist. You can demand that reality validate your emotions, or you can learn how reality actually works and adapt to it. Only one of those approaches leads to strength. Choosing truth over feelings does not make you cold or heartless. It makes you grounded. It allows compassion without delusion. You can acknowledge how someone feels while still telling the truth about what is real. In fact, real care often requires honesty. Comforting lies may feel kind in the moment, but they rob people of growth. Truth also protects you from self-deception. It is easy to justify bad habits, destructive behavior, and wasted potential when feelings are in control. Truth forces you to confront the gap between who you are and who you could be. That confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is also the beginning of transformation. When you align yourself with truth, your feelings eventually follow. They don't disappear, but they become steadier. You gain confidence not because you always feel good, but because you know where you stand. You know what is real. That stability is powerful. Truth matters more than feelings because feelings change, but reality remains. Building your life on feelings is like building on shifting sand. Building your life on truth gives you something solid to stand on even when emotions are loud and confusing. Choosing truth is not easy. It demands humility, discipline, and courage. But it gives you clarity, strength, and direction. And in a world that constantly tells you to protect your feelings at all costs, choosing truth may be one of the most powerful decisions you ever make. Most people are taught to chase happiness. They are told that the goal of life is to feel good, to avoid pain, and to collect pleasurable experiences. But happiness is fragile. It depends on circumstances, comfort, and things going your way. The moment life becomes difficult, and happiness fades. Meaning, however, is different. Meaning does not disappear in suffering. In fact, it is often created through it. Struggle is unavoidable. No matter who you are, life will confront you with loss, failure, rejection, pain, and uncertainty. The question is not whether you will suffer, but whether your suffering will destroy you or shape you. Meaning is what determines the difference. When struggle has no meaning, it feels unbearable. When struggle is tied to something you believe in, it becomes tolerable, even transformative. Meaning comes from responsibility. When you willingly take on something difficult because it matters, suffering gains purpose. Raising a family, pursuing a demanding goal, mastering a skill, standing by your values, none of these easy. They require sacrifice, effort, and endurance. But they give life depth. The pain involved is no longer pointless. It is the price you choose to pay for something worthwhile. Teenagers often believe that struggle means they are failing. If something feels hard, they assume they are on the wrong path. But struggle is not a sign of failure. It is evidence of engagement. If you are struggling, it means you are attempting something that stretches you beyond who you currently are. Avoiding struggle does not protect you. It empties your life of significance. There is a difference between meaningless suffering and meaningful struggle. Meaningless suffering feels random and cruel because there is no reason attached to it. Meaningful struggle, on the other hand, is chosen. It is aligned with values, goals, and responsibility. You may not enjoy it, but you understand why you are enduring it. That understanding changes how pain is experienced. Struggle reveals character. When life becomes difficult, excuses fall away. You discover what you truly value by what you are willing to suffer for. Comfort never reveals who you are. Difficulty does, and that discovery, while uncomfortable, is essential to growth. You cannot respect yourself without knowing what you can endure. Meaning also provides direction. Without it, suffering feels chaotic and overwhelming. With meaning, even pain has a place. You know what you are working toward, and that goal becomes a guiding force. It helps you endure uncertainty, delay gratification, and resist distractions. Meaning organizes your life around something greater than momentary pleasure. Many people try to eliminate suffering instead of understanding it. They numb it with distractions, substances, or constant entertainment, but numbing pain also numbs joy, purpose, and depth. When you avoid struggle, you don't become free, you become shallow. A life without struggle may look easy from the outside, but it often feels empty on the inside. Struggle also creates gratitude. When you have endured difficulty, you appreciate stability, progress, and small victories more deeply. Comfort alone does not produce gratitude, it produces entitlement. Struggle reminds you that good things are earned, not guaranteed. That awareness makes life richer, not poorer. There is also an important connection between struggle and growth. Growth requires sacrifice. You must give up who you are to become who you could be. That process is uncomfortable and often painful. But remaining the same has its own cost. Regret is the suffering that comes from avoided struggle, and unlike chosen struggle, regret offers no growth. Meaning protects you from despair. When life becomes overwhelming, meaning gives you a reason to keep going. It does not erase pain, but it gives you a context for it. People can endure incredible hardship if they believe their suffering serves a purpose. Without that belief, even small problems can feel unbearable. Struggle also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not invincible, that effort is required, and that progress takes time. Humility is not weakness, it is clarity. It allows you to learn, adapt, and improve. Meaningful struggle keeps you grounded in reality while pushing you forward. A life devoted only to comfort eventually becomes intolerable. Without challenge, there is no pride. Without effort, there is no fulfillment. Without struggle, there is no meaning. Pleasure fades quickly, but meaning endures. It sustains you through hardship and gives you something solid to stand on when everything else feels uncertain. Choosing meaning does not mean seeking suffering for its own sake. It means accepting suffering as the cost of a meaningful life. It means asking, what is worth struggling for, and then committing to it fully. That commitment gives your life structure, depth, and purpose. Meaning comes from struggle because struggle forces you to confront reality, responsibility, and your own limitations. It asks something of you, and when you answer that call, even imperfectly, your life gains weight and significance. In the end, a meaningful life is not one without pain, but one where pain is not wasted, where struggle is transformed into growth, responsibility, and purpose. And that is what makes life not just survivable, but worthwhile. So if there is one thing you take away from this, let it be this: a strong life is not built by accident, comfort, or constant reassurance. It is built by choices, often difficult ones, made repeatedly when no one is watching. Taking responsibility gives you strength because it puts your life back in your hands. Embracing discomfort allows you to grow instead of shrink. Discipline carries you forward when motivation disappears. Choosing truth over feelings grounds you in reality instead of illusion. And finding meaning in struggle gives your suffering purpose instead of bitterness. You do not need to have everything figured out right now. You only need to be willing to face reality honestly and carry your share of the weight. Life will test you. It will challenge your confidence, your patience, and your beliefs. But those tests are not there to destroy you. They are there to shape you. The world does not need more people who are protected from difficulty. It needs people who can endure it, people who can think clearly, act responsibly, and stand upright in the face of hardship. That kind of strength is not given, it is earned. So stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, or the perfect circumstances. Choose responsibility. Choose discipline. Choose truth. Choose meaning. Do it imperfectly, but do it honestly. Because the lessons you learn now, while life is shaping you, will determine the kind of person you become when life truly demands something from you. And when that moment comes, you will be ready, not because life was easy, but because you became strong.